4 weeks to go in the regular season. Are the Lions actually in playoff consideration? Jared Goff, everybody from ESPN, CBS Sports, whoever you name, we're all talking about him. They're all saying, is Jared Goff playing some of the best football of his career? And is he now the Lions' future at quarterback? Let's jump into all these topics and maybe just a little bit more in today's Lions Talk Live. Well, greetings and salutations to everybody out there in YouTube land. I am your host once again. My name is Dan Thornton, and I want to thank you for tuning in this Tuesday for another edition of Lions Talk Live. We got some real topics to jump into, get everybody's thoughts on it, see what you think. But let's start off with the biggest topic of the day. The Detroit Lions, just 2 weeks ago, had a less than 5% chance of making the postseason. Now, after Sunday's big win against the Minnesota Vikings, that has jumped up to nearly 18%. And when we win against the New York Jets this upcoming weekend, that number would jump up to nearly 50%. That's right, the Lions are just one game out of the playoffs as it sits right now, and we got a lot of season left to play. But the Lions, like we've talked about for a few weeks on Lions Talk Live, are basically in the playoffs right now. If they lose, their chances are basically all but done as far as postseason consideration. But every time they win, it gets better and better for them. A lot of favorable matchups are coming up this weekend as well. You got Washington facing the Giants and, just a lot of other ones that if they go the right way, the Lions could really, really be in the thick of things by Sunday night. Before we get into the rest of the video, I want to just go ahead real quick, if I may, ask everybody, if you haven't yet subscribed to Lions Talk Live and you're enjoying the content, please consider hitting the subscribe button. It takes you about 1.5 seconds to hit that subscribe button and the like button. If you're also willing, leave some interactive comments in the section below. Maybe throw some ideas for future videos. Maybe whatever the pinned comment of the day is, go ahead and chime in on that. But all these things helps build a community that shares their thoughts and ideas and their opinions, obviously, on why we're all here, the Detroit Lions. So if you are open to it and have not yet subscribed, please offer some thought to doing so. Now, let's get into the rest of the video. So the Lions' playoff chances are what they are. They controlled their own fate at this point. That fate went out, and you're going to be in the postseason. I would guarantee it. Lose one game, and man, it gets real dicey. It looks like the Lions' best chances of a team to be beat out would be either Washington, the New York Giants, and perhaps Seattle, because Seattle has stumbled as of late, and last week's loss really against Carolina was a big shocker to me. I thought they would go in there and rebound, but let's be fair, like I said, Seattle has not been playing great, and even before Baker Mayfield landed over with the Rams, Seattle struggled to beat that team. So Seattle might be on the outside looking in. It's very possible come this weekend, once Washington and the Giants face off this weekend. My guess is the Giants are going to be on the outside again looking in. So Lions could have an opportunity to really get into the playoffs consideration as of Sunday night after they win in New York against the Jets. But anytime they lose, they're going to be helping those teams out. So they've gotten themselves back in position to be in consideration. Now they got a 4-game stretch where they've got to close it out and get into the postseason. Now let's get into the quarterback situation for Detroit. Jared Goff. Just over a year ago, we traded away Matthew Stafford. I mean, you guys all know the drill. We traded away Stafford. He didn't want to be here anymore. I get it. He'd been here 12 years, and he didn't really want to go through another rebuild. But Brad Holmes, it's looking more and more like he got a king's ransom for him. Goff was thrown in along with 2 first-rounders and a third as like a cast-off. The Rams thought so little of Goff. Not only did they give him to us, just say, hey, we'll give you a second first-rounder, but you got to take this guy off our hands. They're even paying the majority of his salary. How about that? We think that low of you where we're going to give you away and we're going to pay your salary for the other team. But what do you know? Goff has risen up, much like our D in our season. He's risen up to play some of the best football in all the NFL. whether you love Goff or hate him, what we can say is this season, other than a 3-4 game stretch where most of his receivers are on the sideline, same with some of the offensive line blocking for him, the rest of this season, he's been exemplary. And there's no way to look at the numbers, take away the name from it. He is playing like one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL, especially during this, winning 5 out of 6 games. Goff's accuracy has gone up. His deep ball ability to throw has gone up. He's taken real command and poise of this team. Yes, early in the year, when he went through a bit of a rough stretch, was he dropping back too far, hanging his tackles out to dry? Was he getting out of the pocket? He was making a bunch of errors. But, like we've also pointed out on Lions Talk Live, it seems to me last year he played okay, if not great, towards the end of the year when he got some receivers on the field that could separate. And that would be Reynolds and St. Brown. This year at the start, he played great. When Shark was out there, Reynolds and St. Brown, Hutchinson at that time, and Swift out of the backfield. But when a number of those guys went on the IR for a while, and now you had to use more like Tom Kennedy and Khalif Raymond, yes, there is a period of time when that was taking place, his numbers dropped. But what we can also say is, since those guys have come back, his numbers have gone up, and away. So there does seem to be a symbiotic relationship for sure with the Detroit Lions offense and their quarterback. When the receivers are strong, when they're able to create separation, he can excel. If you're asking him to throw pinpoint precision passes left and right because the receivers cannot separate, then he's not so great. Now I'm not here to say that Matthew Stafford was a bad quarterback. I think he was beloved by most of his teammates. I get if you go back over his career in Detroit, probably not everybody loved him, but it is what it is. Goff, now the focal point of the offense, as he is our quarterback, does seem to be fairly beloved by the teammates. You can see it in locker room reactions when he talks to everybody. Are they very similar? In my opinion, yes. Are they different also? Sure. No two people are exactly alike. But let's say this. We got 4 games left. If Goff finishes this season anywhere near the pace he's on right now, he's probably our quarterback for the next year or 2. Doesn't mean the team can't draft somebody and groom them, but I do believe if they are going to draft somebody next offseason, it's probably going to be somebody more in the 3rd or 4th or later rounds to groom, develop over time. Because let's be honest, it's been a long time since the Lions have had a legitimate backup quarterback, and I'm not really sold on Nate Sutfield being that person for a foreseeable future. My counter to that would be look at Tom Brady and many other NFL quarterbacks this year. Aaron Rodgers. Did these guys all really regress at the same time magically, or is it a case that their receivers aren't getting much separation, which means they have to throw more and more consistent pinpoint passes because the margin for error has gotten incredibly small due to a lack of separation? I'm going to say my opinion, it's just mine, that's the case. And that's also the case with Jared Goff. When his receivers are healthy and getting some separation, he's a highly effective quarterback, it would appear. Yes, last year he did not start the year off well, but again, look at who his receivers were. I would even go so far as to say there's probably an emotional component to the start of last year for Goff. Remember, at that time, he was a 26-year-old kid who just got traded from the team he loved to some place in Detroit that he didn't know anybody. And to be honest, you're going from Los Angeles and the beach to Detroit in winter. As a 26-year-old, I'm sure that would be impactful on many people's psyche. But over time, guess what? It would appear Goff said, this is a good place for me. I do like it. He got over the breakup of being kicked out and dumped by the Rams. All those things come into play, and now what we have is a quarterback who's invested in the community, invested in the team, and playing some pretty good football. And there's the crux of the situation. Goff did a great job of saying, all right, you're trying to take away St. Brown. You're going to give me somebody else. Shark won a lot of those battles. Yes, J-Mo did have one good pass early in the game where they clearly lost containment on him and just somebody blew an assignment. Whatever it may be. I do want to give out a shout out to J-Mo too on Jackson's running play towards the pylon. If you watch the replay, you'll see that J-Mo sets one hell of a run block. I don't remember who it was on, but he came over and smash that dude. So props to the rookie. He not only is going to show that perhaps he'll mix it up like a St. Brown in the run blocking game, but he's going to be a real threat in the passing game too. Good for us. We got somebody who can do both sides of the ball. All right, enough about Goff now. Let's talk about the defense. I've been talking on Lions Talk Live for some time now about Hutchinson. Do I think he's a very, very good defensive player? Yes, I do. Do I think he's an elite pass rusher? No, I do not. Could that change over time? Absolutely. But what we can say is if you look at what our options were with the number 2 pick in last year's draft, did we whiff? No, I think we got a pretty good pick. The only person I'd say that potentially, at least at this point in their careers, you could argue, hey, would have been a better pick, would maybe be Sauce Gardner. But I'm going to say this. If you don't have a pass rush, how well can any defensive back really cover for a period of time? I'm just going to summarize with this. I think we got the right guy. He's affecting multiple aspects of the game, and he does remind me more and more of a Bruce Smith type. Somebody who's long, lengthy, and can do a lot of different things on D. Yes, Bruce Smith became an elite pass rusher. Will that happen to Aiden Hutchinson? Who knows? But I think we're going to be very happy at some point when his career is done here in Detroit and say, yeah, this kid could play. He did help the team, and we made the right pick. And that's a good move for the Detroit Lions. Now, let's talk about the other guy in this pass rush situation that we've got going on, James Houston. I know I'm probably not telling you something you don't already know, but James Houston has turned out to live up to that college name of his, The Problem. We've talked about it since the day he rolled out on the football field against the Buffalo Bills. This kid's got stuff that you, me, and everybody else in between cannot teach. He's got God-given abilities that less than 0.5% of all the world have. And I think, especially when you're looking at a later round pick, that's what you're looking for. Something that we know very few people and every other NFL team have. He's got the ability to change directions, shift his weight, keep speed and momentum, all these different things. Now you add in more and more coachable things, technique, understanding of situations, how to set things up, how to not do the same move over and over and counter a move. Whatever metric and topic you want to use, Houston is turning out to be a real steal. And that's saying something because in Brad Holmes' 2 seasons here, he's gotten people like Amon-Ra St. Brown, a steal. I'm not going to go through everybody, but the problem James Houston presents to other teams is he's just flat out on a pass play, very difficult to block. Kid's got 4 sacks in 3 games, and I think he's in for more over time. I think the goal for Brad Holmes and Aaron Glenn needs to be with Houston or to find more ways to get him on the field. Right now, he's doing great on third down or obvious pass rush situations. Yes, he excels at that. But why aren't we finding ways to get him on for first and second down? You've heard my thoughts. I don't think he's good at shedding run blocks. When he goes with a bull rush over and over again in the passing game, he's just highly ineffective. He doesn't have that kind of ability. He doesn't have that kind of upper body strength to be able to pull off that move. That's something Hutchinson does and does incredibly well. But Houston, the problem is he's got to find ways to develop and become someone who can play on second and third down. That would be a major shift for him. And I'm going to say this, whether it's this season or the off season, that might be one of the highest priorities for this coaching staff. Not the draft and not free agency. I mean, they'll take care of that themselves. But how can we develop this kid so he can play more and more downs? Because the more you can keep him on the field, I think the more he's going to become a force for this D. And let's think about that D. How many potential defensive starters did we get in last spring's draft? It's starting to look like we might have got the majority of the D in just last year's draft. Last topic for here on Tuesday here. Let's talk about the wide receiving core for Detroit. Once upon a time, just a year ago, it looked like we didn't have a wide receiving core. We had a bunch of guys that couldn't get open, couldn't separate, and were just kind of NFL average speed. That's not the case today, though. Whether you're talking about St. Brown, Reynolds, Shark, or Williams, and let's be fair, Quinton Cephas, when healthy, is not bad. Tom Kennedy, in the right situations, isn't bad. Khalif Raymond isn't bad. You get the point. But what we can also say at this point in time is the Detroit Lions have one of the NFL's better overall receiving cores. And if you could somehow manage away this offseason at the right price to keep Shark and J-Mo on the field at the same time, heck, maybe even throw in Khalif Raymond, think about the crazy amount of speed that is out there. And it's not that they're just fly pattern receivers. These guys can go across the middle. They can run posts. They can run crossing routes, whatever it may be. And that's going to be a real problem for other teams. Plus, it means less and less teams can double up on St. Brown and try to put help over him to keep him from tearing him up. That's something Minnesota did a great job of, in my opinion, last weekend. They made sure St. Brown wasn't going to be the guy to kill them alone. All right, that's it for today, this video. It's gotten long enough, and I'm not a big fan of keeping people all day on a video. At any rate, I want to thank you all for tuning in. We'll see you tomorrow on another Lions Talk Live. And once again, if you haven't yet subscribed, please consider doing so, leaving a thumbs up, and maybe leave a comment in the section below. Take care, enjoy your day, and we'll see you tomorrow on Lions Talk Live.